I'm Chris Gardner speaking with Johnny Jones, head coach of TSU men's basketball. Let me be specific. Texas Southern University men's basketball. Coach Jones, how you doing today?
Doing great, Chris, and yourself?
I'm doing great. And this conversation I had planned in my head initially because I wanted to make good on my promise to you a while ago about speaking with you during the season. So I'd already planned to do that this month at some point. Well, you and the squad added another reason to that conversation by going on the road and defeating the Florida Gators on Monday, December 6th. Just your thoughts on, have the team come down from that high yet? Have you come down from that high, beating an SEC team on the road?
Oh, absolutely. Certainly, cherished the moment and was excited, as well as our players. But we too understand that we've got to make sure that we do stay in the moment. We're excited at that time. We were able to get up and travel back the next morning. They had to take a couple of days off and really get into their finals because it's finals week right now, and got a couple of them actually walking on Saturday. John Walker and Cole Nicholas will both be walking, but hopefully we'll go back to practice on tomorrow and start working on our next opponent. But at the end of the day, I think that we'll have a little pep in our step and a little glide in our stride, hopefully at practice because of the success that we had, but understanding the hard work that they've gone through paid off, and hopefully that's going to help us as we continue to go through this gauntlet of a schedule in the preseason.
Well, first, please give my congratulations to John and Carl for walking. That's a big accomplishment. So much respect to both of them and to you and the staff for helping get that done. Coach, the win over Florida was the first of the season. You guys had lost 7 prior, played well in most of those 7, I think. But what were your thoughts in the first 7 games before facing Florida?
Yeah, no, for those games, we actually held the lead at halftime for the 7 games, and it played well. The problem was we probably weren't playing, and I always tell our guys, we're not going to play a perfect game, but the closer we can get to it, the better off we'll be, and it will equal some positive results at the end of the day for us. And we weren't completing the task. We go well in the first half, come back out in the second half, and there would be a stretch or something where we weren't scoring, or we would turn the ball over and teams were getting easy scoring opportunities against us, which at the end of the day would make a difference in the basketball game. So one, we had to talk about the things that were creating or causing the turnovers. What were the things that were calling the drop off in terms of us going stretches without scoring, and wanted to make sure that we addressed that in terms of being able to grind and being able to make plays. We're able to do that, and I thought we were able to do that throughout the Florida game, and that's something we hadn't been able to do in those other games prior to. And so the lesson learned from those games and playing the tough schedule that we have, we could possibly plan a lesser schedule in terms of our opponent, not as good, not as tough. Then we wouldn't be exposed to the things that really matter, that we really need to work on. So unfortunately, we've had setbacks in those games, but at the end of the day, I think it's been really, really good for our team because it was not only something that happened on the floor, we could go to the film in the video room, show them these areas of concern where we've got to get better and address them. And when we address them, I think success will come. And I think that's what happened in the Florida game.
Now, the previous game before Florida was in Ruston against La Tech. And just from outside looking in, the score was 87-60, I believe, final score. So that kind of surprised me of the amount of points you guys gave up and the margin. So what was your message after that game heading into Florida?
We were so good leading up into that game. And I'm telling you, we were so good because I thought that we had played well in games. The Louisiana Tech game probably was the worst game from start to finish that I thought that we had played so far this year. Those things are going to happen a lot of times in sports. There's that game or two or whatever that'll jump out there at you. Then there's those game or two where you play out of your mind and you play extremely well and you're hitting on all cylinders or whatever, and those things happen. And then there's that belly of the games throughout your schedule to where you're not awful you're not off the tracks, but you're managing the game and you've got a chance to win. Well, the Louisiana Tech game was one of the worst. And I thought throughout, in terms of executing offensively, defensively, we were certainly wasn't hitting on all cylinders and allowed people to make baskets. We turned the ball over to give them easy scoring opportunities, whatever at times. So it was a bad game for us, but I thought the Florida game was probably the exact opposite from that, to where unfortunately we had 22 turnovers, but at the same time, some of those turnovers were dead ball situations where they didn't go on the other end and score. And sometime during those turnovers, we would get the ball right back because of our defense, and they didn't wind up scoring against us. So those things were, I thought, were a positive at the end of the day for us. But on the boards, we were able to focus and concentrate there. We got 40-something rebounds to maybe 23 rebounds against a really big and strong Florida team because that was one of our central focuses in terms of how we were going to approach that basketball game as well. But yeah, it was diametrically opposite of two games when you talk about how we played at Louisiana Tech as opposed to how we showed up at University of Florida.
Was there a point in the game versus Florida that you and the players could sense we have a great chance to win this ball game?
Well, you know, I'm just one of those guys that's been doing it for a long time, and I just don't ever think it's safe really until that horn is about to sound and the clock is at 0-0. So you never relax and put your guard down because anything can happen. But I thought when they started backing off, maybe under the 2-minute mark, that they may have felt, and they weren't going out there fouling on purpose to get the clock stopped. I thought then we had a chance to finish if we could just take care of the ball, make extra passes, get into the clock, and just run the clock out. So I think maybe just under 2 minutes may have felt good, even though we had a 20-point lead around that time. But at the same time, I think they got a couple of steals or whatever at that time, made some buckets, and cut it to 15 even at that time. So you just never were able to relax.
How many people have you heard from after the win over Florida that you hadn't heard from in a while?
Oh, I tell you, and yeah, and it's crazy how it happens, but you welcome it, and it's part of it. But I had hundreds of text messages after the game that people had either seen the game or they're watching the ticker or something's popped up on their phone, the scores, and even leading to the next day and getting off the flight, another several messages that were out there, and then phone calls that were made, and then it's fun, and it's something you really look forward to, and especially the fans and the friends that you have out there that are pulling for you. And it's always great to hear from them, but at those moments in time, for them to share in the excitement, it's great hearing from them at that time as well.
8 games done so far. What grade would you give the team these first 8 games?
Well, you know, I always tell our guys, and you know, prior to games, and especially preseason and the caliber schedule that we play, that sometime we're going to win, and sometime we're going to learn. And as long as we're learning, we're never losing.
Okay.
And so, in the beginning of the season, I want them to play a very difficult schedule, but at the same time, understand what we're up against, where we're playing at, and the value in these games that we're playing. And so I don't sit there and harp on the end score all the time, but I do harp on the areas we can improve, that we're not repeating the same things that were detrimental to us in the games or whatever before. And just like the Florida game, the success we've had, I can't sit there and be overly excited at the end of the day because we've got to continue growing from this game. How do we handle the success of that game in terms of moving forward? So there are always teaching moments for our basketball team and our program, whether you're up or whether you're going through something, you know, on the other end. And I certainly don't like the lose the term losing, but sometimes when you have setbacks or things that don't quite go to your way, how do you handle it? And how do you build yourself to where when things do go your way and you're having success, how do you respond? And that's the sign of a champion.
Your team, this year's team, is a veteran squad. Do you get a sense that it won't be difficult for them to maintain an even keel and not get too high from Winnable, Florida, and have a good/great practice after finals. Everybody gets ready to go and focused.
And that's something that we're going to have to see because this is a new team. We obviously have guys from last year that's a part of this basketball team, but every season and just like every game, it takes obviously on a new chapter, and that's something that I'm looking forward to. How they respond after a win, after the time off that we've taken, so they can concentrate really on their finals. How do they respond coming back to our next practice? And that's going to be a lesson learned or whatever for us because Christmas is coming up too. And now how early do we have to respond in getting back from our Christmas break and trying to get this ship righted because of the fact that we're going into conference play at that time. So I'll see the growth, experience, and the maturity of this team here in the next few days.
How many games remaining on the non-conference schedule?
3. We at University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley on Tuesday. Then we go to Cincinnati, and then our last game will be after Christmas on the 29th at TCU. And after that, we will get into it. So we've got 3 games left on our non-conference schedule. Then we get into a conference schedule start, and I think it's January 2nd, if I'm not mistaken.
Now, the game at Rio Grande Valley, was it last year or the year before when Coach Hill passed away?
It was last year, unfortunately. Yeah, last year, and we had actually scheduled home and home. It was actually a game that we scheduled during the season because a couple of their games were canceled because of COVID, and we had the same thing. So we were looking to get a game in there, and because of our relationship and friendship, we had a chance to talk, get it worked out that they would come here last season, and we would return that game to them. And that was probably one of the most difficult deals of my coaching career. After our game that night, getting a call that next morning that he had passed away. And so it was really devastating to hear those words, and difficult even when I think about it now. It certainly sent me to a certain area of stage.
Yeah, because as long as I've done this, been privileged to do this, I think I've seen Coach Hill a lot throughout these 30 years I've done this. So, and on the coaching side, it is a bond, it is a connection, a friendship that you make throughout. How long have you been a coach, Coach Jones?
So 30 something odd years, maybe 36, 37 years. So as I say this since 1985.
So you've connected with a lot of people throughout those years. So it's not just always competing and
Right.
wanting to beat the other person. It's about building friendships and relationships. So when I heard about Coach Hill, it did hurt. The news is devastating. So for sure.
Right.
About to wrap it up with you, Coach Jones. What do you do when you guys on an off day? How is your day, taken care of? Do you watch film? You and the coaches get together and watch film breakdowns? Do you relax, or what do you do on off days?
Well, say for instance, like yesterday, we caught a plane from Jacksonville, Florida, got back home at around 10 o'clock in the morning. We asked our players to let's go straight in the study hall on yesterday so we can get caught up on our finals. And so I took the staff, we ran the lunch, came back and started preparing for our next opponent, which would be Rio Grande Valley. And then so today, trying to take care of a few administrative things here on campus and catching up on a few of the real important things in terms of our media responsibilities and as well. So today gave that me an opportunity to do that, and it served as that purpose. And if there's any little things I need to get caught up on in terms of taking care of some things at home and responsibilities, I try to find some time to do that as well, because our weekends are kind of blocked up really because of games as well. But we do have a little bit of time off, so I do find time to do some honeydews around the house as well.
And one final question. Last week, a few days ago, the city of Houston had the logo launch for the 2023 hosting of the men's Final Four, and Texas Southern, 4 local schools, Texas Southern, U of H, Rice, HBU are partnering for that bid. Just what are your thoughts again on the city of Houston hosting the men's Final Four?
Couldn't be more excited. You know, when you talk about this great city here in which we live, in what it has to offer on the sporting side, and I think it's been proven. That's why they've chosen to bring it back here for a third time. The Final Four, which is I think is the greatest sporting show on earth. You know, that weekend I've been the Final Four and crowning a champion of the NCAA a basketball tournament for Division I basketball. But I'm just excited that our four institutions, Texas Southern University, here, along with the other three institutions here in Division I, then the first time that's going to be done during the Final Four, you have four teams or four schools that's going to have an opportunity to be host institutions or whatever of such a great event. But I couldn't be more excited about it coming here. My only hope and prayer is that we're not only serving as a host, but a participating school in that event. And wouldn't it be joyous if in 2023 that Texas Southern could be playing right here in the city for national championship. So it's okay to dream, and that's what it is. And hopefully we can put those dreams into a reality.
Johnny Jones, head coach at Texas Southern University men's basketball. Coach, thank you very much. And let's try to do it again some point next month and at least once a month throughout the season.
Well, I'll just be waiting on your call or your text, and you just let me know when you're available and we can be on, and look forward to doing it. But always enjoy being on with you. Thanks so much for your time, and go Tigers.
Thank you, Coach. You take care.
Yes, sir.